I know. I might get started. So hello everyone and welcome to our third community event. I can't believe this is already our third event. I'm so happy that you're all here. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our third event. We're hoping to host a lot more. We're having some really interesting and insightful people, such as the lovely Julia, to run us through these sessions. Before we start, I'd also like to start off by respectfully acknowledging that this event is being recorded here on the land of the Bundjalung people. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. If you do happen to know the land you're on, I'd also like to invite you to acknowledge that in the chat. We've also got closed captions available as well, so you can click the CC button to access that as well. But without further ado, we have got the lovely Julia De Kang, who is an Australian integrative physiotherapist, pain recovery coach, and researcher for the whole lot. She works with a lot of people from our community, so many different conditions. But Julia, if you'd like to, take the lead and introduce yourself, I will stop yapping.
Thanks so much, Larissa. Hey, everyone. It's so great to be speaking with you all tonight. I'm going to start by bringing my slides up. Larissa, can you see the slides? Super. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the many generations of Gadigal people who's taken care of the land that I get to be on tonight in Sydney, Australia. As Larissa said, I work as an integrative physiotherapist and pain recovery coach with people all across Australia. And one of the wonderful places that I get to work at is Zebras Australia, which I'll tell you more about at the end of tonight. I'm also doing PhD research at the University of Sydney on the topics we'll be talking about tonight. And outside of work, I love aerial silks. So here I am in black with my friend Shanae up top. And I love to crochet. So here's Bindi the koala that I crocheted for my husband's niece. Some of my intentions for tonight: please do whatever you need to feel comfortable. Take what you like and leave the rest. And if there's any uncertainties, let it simmer, let it rumble, because that's how change happens. Tonight, the first 20 minutes will be on the theory of the science of safety, followed by a 5 minutes experiential section of a guided practice, recap, and reflection. And I'll finish with a 5-minute summary of Zebras Australia. Let's come into the theory part now. Where I like to start is a real photo of an actual human nervous system. And I like to start here because, unlike other parts of the body, the nervous system is invisible. And like many invisible illnesses, I think that's the reason why it's often disregarded or even invalidated. So if this is not something you want to see tonight, feel free to turn away and I'll let you know once we're past the picture. Photo coming up in 3, 2, and 1. So this is our human nervous system. At the top, we have our brain with the eyeballs in front. That is connected to our spinal cord. And together that makes the central nervous system. And everything outside of that is the peripheral nervous system. So down the length of our arms to the tips of our fingers, throughout our torso, and down the length of our legs to the tips of our toes. We're past the picture now. Tonight, we're going to focus on the autonomic nervous system. And autonomic because it can function without our conscious awareness and choice. And there are ways that we can influence this that we'll talk about later on. Now, I want to flag that this is a high-level model, and all models are wrong, because no single model can represent the entire complexity and marvel of our human body. But what I hope to share tonight is one way to understand why things happen and what can help. This model has three parts. The first is neuroception, where the body constantly sends messages up to the brain. Could be exteroception, what's happening outside our body, through what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and all different types of touch. Can be what happens inside our body. So proprioception, where our body is in space. And interoception, what's happening inside the body. This can include physical stretch or tension. So our lungs, blood vessels, stomach, intestine, bladder, they all have stretch receptors that are constantly sending messages up to our brain, whether we know it or not. Can also be chemical changes. So neurotransmitters, hormones, immune mediators, which we'll talk about tonight. So body's constantly sending messages up to the brain. Then the brain constantly predicts, how safe am I? And it's a very important question and the reason why we're all alive right now. Then the brain sends instructions back down to the body, either more of a danger response or more of a safety response. So now let's zoom in more on the danger and safety responses. The danger response protects us from immediate predicted danger. So think of it as a big red emergency button. You press it and things can happen very quickly. It's got three main components. The first is the sympathetic nervous system. So brain, down the spinal cord, through the spinal nerves, where the ganglia form the sympathetic chain. Then our hormone system, our endocrine system, also helps us respond to danger. One part of this is the HPA axis. So hypothalamus, which is deep behind the bridge of our nose. Pituitary, which is just underneath it. Then adrenal gland is all the way down on top of our kidneys. And our kidneys are roughly at the bottom of our rib cage in the back. And the adrenal glands are sitting on top. The HPA axis produces a long-acting hormone called cortisol that preps us for danger. Then the nervous system also has a direct highway to the adrenal glands to produce short-acting hormones, epinephrine or adrenaline, norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Our immune system also preps our body and mind to respond to danger. And one part of that is the inflammatory response. One part of that are mast cells. And one mediator produced by mast cells are histamines. So some of us might be on antihistamines to block histamine receptors and reduce the inflammatory response. And you might have heard of the term cytokine storm. Now, I want to flag that cytokines are not bad. Pro-inflammatory cytokines are not bad. They're needed to help us respond to danger. And you might have also had CRP, C-reactive protein, tested in your blood test, another chemical that helps us respond to danger. So these three systems plus more all work together to prep our mind and body to respond to danger. Let's think about its impact from the top down. Our thinking becomes fast but narrow. It is focused on danger. So we can respond really quickly without too much thinking. We might feel emotions of anger, fear, and anxiety to prompt us to fight or flight. Our vision, senses, communication, they become focused on danger. So our hearing becomes more attuned to high-pitch, high-frequency sounds, which can partly explain hypersensitivity to really high-pitched sounds. heart rate goes up, heart rate variability lowers. Now, in the short term, that is not an issue when we're responding to a danger. But if our HRV is low in the long term, it's linked with many health challenges. Breathing becomes faster. Blood sugar becomes higher. So the glycogen that's being stored in our liver and in our muscles, it breaks down into sugar so that our body and mind has the fuel that it needs to fight or flight. And digestion and bowel function are not prioritized because that's not as important when there is danger at hand. And our muscles are tensed, ready for fight or flight. This might include our coat hanger area, hip flexors, lower back, glutes and pelvic floor, and calves. And there's reduced blood flow and priority to things like temperature regulation, skin, hair, and nails, socializing, and reproduction, because these things aren't as important when we're facing immediate danger. So all of these three systems plus more are prepping our mind and body in these ways plus more in order to respond to danger. Now, there's an equally important response called the safety response. This helps our body recover and grow after danger. And if the danger response is like a big red alarm button, one way to think of the safety response is this big switchboard with lots of dials that allows for more nuance. It also has three components. The first is the parasympathetic nervous system, and 80% of this is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It's the second largest in the body after the spinal cord itself. And vagus get its name from the same Latin root as the word vagabond, which means to wander. So we can see here in yellow now, the vagus nerve, it wanders through the body and goes to many of our organs. The lungs, heart, liver, stomach, spleen, pancreas, small intestine, and large intestine. And 80% of these fibers go from the body up to the brain, which can help to explain things like the gut-brain axis and the reason why slower breathing can send messages of safety up to our brain. The remaining 20% of the parasympathetic nervous system comes from some cranial nerves and some sacral nerves. Then the hormone system is also involved in our safety response. Some examples include reduced cortisol, which was produced here to help us respond to danger, increased oxytocin, that's associated with trust and bonding, and increased insulin to help with blood sugar regulation. And the immune system is also involved in the safety response. One example of this is an increase in acetylcholine, which then reduces pro-inflammatory cytokines that were produced here to help us respond to danger. Now, these three systems again work together to have an impact on our body and mind. And they're going to be the opposite of the danger response. So our thinking becomes slower, but capable of more complexity and nuance. So you might have read the book Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner. That's an interesting parallel to what's happening here. So danger response, thinking fast. Safety response, thinking slow. We might feel more curious, creative, and open. Then our vision, senses, and communication becomes optimized to pick up human voice frequencies, making human conversations easier to hear. Heart rate slows down. HRV goes up. Breathing slows down. Blood sugar lowers. So the sugar becomes stocked back as glycogen in our liver and in our muscle for the next time we need to respond to danger. And our digestion and bowel function improves. So we have the nutrients that we need to recover and grow. And our muscles, after being activated to respond to danger, in the safety response, our muscles can relax so they too can recover and grow. And these areas that were not considered essential for our immediate survival then gets more blood flow and priority so we can have better overall well-being and health. And at any point in time, how much danger response and how much safety response is in our body then determines our nervous system states. So if we think of increasing predicted danger as we go up, here we have our safe and social zone, also known as rest and digest, feed and breed, tend and befriend. Here we're in a parasympathetic dominance. As we predict more danger, we move up into fight, flight, fawn, where we're in sympathetic dominance. Then even more predicted danger, we get bumped up into freeze, where we're back into parasympathetic dominance. Now, none of these nervous system states are better than the other, and we need all of them. We want a functional nervous system to be flexible and fit for purpose. Here's a classic demonstration of this. In our day-to-day life, our nervous system is always changing to adapt to what's happening outside our body and inside our body to maintain homeostasis. Let's say we see a bear. Body sends messages up to the brain. So vision might send images of the bear, hearing might send sounds of the bear. Body sends messages up to the brain. Brain predicts how safe are we, sends message back to the body saying, let's turn up the danger response. So our physiological state gets bumped up into fight, flight, fawn to help us respond to this danger. And if that's not enough, we get bumped up even further into freeze so we can conserve our energy and resources. Then let's say the danger resolves. Body sends messages up to the brain. This time, vision might be sending images without a bear. Hearing might be sending sounds of the bear going further and further away. Body sends message up to the brain. Brain predicts how safe am I, sends a message down and says, we're safer than before. Let's gradually turn on the safety response. And you might notice here that it does take time to gradually come back into safe and social. From the nervous system point of view, we just saw a bear. So we're going to be more protective and more vigilant than usual. Then from the immune system and hormone system point of view, all of these chemicals that were released to help protect us, they're still circulating in our body, and it takes time for it to be processed. So we know that a functional nervous system is flexible and fit for purpose. What can happen is that we can have cumulative load without adequate recovery. And this can come from many sources. Can be things from our childhood, whether they be ACEs or otherwise, schooling years, work, family, financial, health, relocation, relationships, and there's more. Caring duties, sensory overstimulation, poor sleep, inadequate nutrition, inadequate or too much movement, disconnected from nature, lack of belonging, feeling inadequate, discrimination, or masking. And this cumulative load, it builds up a large allostatic load. So where our baseline used to be in safe and social, it gets bumped up And we're flipping between fight, flight, and fawn, where we feel anxious and overwhelmed, and freeze, where we feel completely exhausted. So we know a functional nervous system is flexible and it can go through all of these states depending on the predicted sense of danger. But what can happen when we're stuck in the survival mode here is that it can contribute to and amplify many symptoms. And I'm going to go through these really quickly, but it will be recorded so you can come back. Physical aches and tensions, fatigue, orthostatic intolerances, sensory hypersensitivities, temperature regulation, digestive symptoms, urinary symptoms, sleep disturbances, disrupted immune processes, cognitive challenges, mood disturbances, unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful behaviors, and other symptoms. So we know that cumulative load without adequate recovery builds up a large allostatic load, where our baseline shifts from a state of safe and social up into flip it between overwhelm and anxiousness and complete exhaustion. What we can try and do, and it's simple but not easy, is try turn up our safety response as often as we can. Because an allostatic load this big is easier to manage than an allostatic load that's that big. And life is going to keep lifing, and there is so much that we cannot control. But what we can try and control is trying to turn up our safety response as often as we can. And I think it's helpful to remember that our brain's job is to protect us. So it's going to be biased to look out for danger. So it is then our job to try and turn up the safety response as often as we can. So I have spoken a lot and added to our allostatic load. So I'd love to guide us into the experiential section now. I'm going to start with a guided practice called ABCD. Please feel free to follow my guidance, but I also encourage you to do whatever your body and mind needs at any point in time. So if it feels good for you, I invite you to close your eyes or lower or soften your gaze. But if you prefer to have your eyes open, please feel free to do that. You can even shut off your video camera. A is for awareness. Feel your body against the surface below you. Could be head on a pillow, body on the bed, back against a chair or a couch, bottom into a chair, couch, bed, or ground. Notice how you don't have to do anything right now. You can just be completely yourself, and the surfaces are pushing up to support us. B is for breath. Left hand on heart, right hand on lower belly. Slow breath in through the nose if you can. Sigh it out. Slow breath in, belly rises. Sigh it out. And last one, slow breath in. Sigh it all out. C is for contract, relax. Clasp your hands together any way that you like. Contract and squeeze as much as you like. And relax and let go. Cross your legs anywhere you like if they're not crossed already. Contract and squeeze your legs and glutes as much as you like. And let go. Hug yourself any way that you like. Perhaps one hand on armpit, other on the shoulder. Lower your head. Contract your whole body as much as you like. And let go. And D is for dear. DEAR. Visualize someone who makes you smile. Slow breath in through the nose if you can. Sigh it all out. Thank yourself for taking 2 to 3 minutes to nourish your nervous system. Now feel free to keep your eyes closed, open to whatever you need to do as I guide us into the recap and reflection. The top 3 messages that I wanted to share tonight. 1, a functional nervous system is a flexible one that is fit for purpose. It can respond to danger. It can also recover in safety. And 2, when we have cumulative load without adequate recovery, we build up a large allostatic load. And our baseline used to be in safe and social. It gets bumped up into flipping between fight, flight, fawn, where we're overwhelmed and anxious, and freeze, where we feel completely exhausted. And 3, what we can try and do is turn up our safety response as often as we can. And it's simple, but not easy. But there is no right or wrong. Notice what feels good in your unique nervous system and choose to do that as often as you can. And trying to stay kind to ourselves throughout this process, because we say the harshest things to ourselves that we wouldn't say to our worst enemy. And if we're surrounded by the right people, like the people we have on Spoonie, and if we're supported by the right people, I truly believe, because I've seen it time and time again, that we can expand our safe and social zone so we can engage with more and savor more of ourselves and the people, places, and activities that we love. Now I'm going to guide our final reflection in 2 steps. Step 1 is to notice. Notice what might help your nervous system feel safer this week. So what might help your nervous system feel safer this week? And there's no shame or blame if we haven't been doing it. That's why we're here. We believe in change. And try not to overthink it. When we're in survival mode, we tend to be more perfectionist, maximizing, and self-shaming and blaming, because everything tends to be such high stake. So whatever comes to your mind, you know your mind and body the best. Now, step 2 Choose when you're going to do this. Something that might help your nervous system feel safer this week. Choose when you want to do this. Now, to close our experiential section, slow breath in through the nose. Sigh it out. Notice how your mind feels. There's no need to change anything, just noticing. Notice how your body feels. And thank yourself for choosing to use your time and energy for this webinar. Now, feel free to keep your eyes closed, have them open, do whatever it is that you need. I like to end with a bit of info about Zebras Australia. So at Zebras, we're a team of passionate healthcare practitioners, and we want to put an end to less than pleasant experiences for people experiencing pain, tension, and fatigue. And three of the things I love most about how Zebras work. One is that we work in an integrative way. So you are always at the center of everything that we do. What is meaningful to you? What's important to you? What are your strengths? What are you finding challenging at the moment? And how do we move towards what you want? We'll draw on your experiences, your strengths, your preferences. We'll draw on available research, theories, and tools. And really importantly, we also draw on the collective wisdom of the thousands of people that we supported so far. Second thing I love most about Zebras is many of the team have lived experiences of persistent pain and symptoms, invisible illnesses, neurodivergence, trauma, and burnout. And that's across our whole team, from practitioners to customer care to community outreach. And last but not least, we try to practice what we preach so we can better serve others in a sustainable way. So when we turn up to work, we try to be ourselves, no masking required. And we're not perfect. So we try to lean into our discomforts and try to stay kind and try to stay curious. So give me one moment because Manon, our community outreach coordinator, has made a very helpful slide of who are we at Zebras. So we offer both in-person services in Richmond in Melbourne, as well as virtual services all across Australia. We offer physiotherapy, occupational therapy, exercise physiology, and this is all done in the integrative way that I described before. We also offer movement classes, resources, products, and events, and it's always keeping the community in mind. Here's our contact details. Here's a link to our link tree. And here's a photo of some of us. So a much bigger team now. There's about 20 of us now. So I want to thank you again for the time and effort you have chosen to use on tonight's webinar. And my wish for all of us is that we have a wonderful week, nourishing and nurturing our nervous systems.
Thank you so much, Julia. I was a patient of Zebras years ago, way before Spoonie, and yeah, I can absolutely say they are the most amazing team. I've seen a lot of different practitioners there. So yeah, we feel very lucky to have you on tonight, and yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much, Larissa, for the opportunity.
Anytime. Wherever you're tuning in from, I hope you have a lovely evening. And yeah, stay tuned for our next events, which we'll be sending emails out about very shortly. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it.